Hello, this is Dr. Dennis Bielfeldt of the Institute of Lutheran Theology. It's Christ School of Theology, and we're dealing with Descartes today, his meditations. We're trying to look at the meditations with an eye towards theology, right? The theological appropriation of these philosophical movements. We're talking about his book, The Meditations, which came out in 1641. And basically, as I said last time, he questions if perhaps all our knowledge, all his knowledge that he's had up until this point has been incorrect. Then he seeks to hold in abeyance, that is suspension, all his previous beliefs. And he wants to determine if he can know anything for sure on kind of a worst case scenario when it comes to knowing. He notices that oftentimes he's been in error, so maybe he always is. Sometimes he's been dreaming, well, maybe he is now. But even more important, it's logically and metaphysically possible that there is an evil demon or evil genius systematically deceiving him. So, when you think about this, I want you to think of another scenario, because sometimes we, living in the early part of the 21st century, don't find plausible maybe evil demons systematically deceiving us. So I want you to think instead about the following scenario. This comes from Hilary Putnam in his book, Reason, Truth, and History. Maybe, after all, I'm a brain in a vat. I could be one. I remember the Star Trek episode, right, where brains in vats and all they did was bet on things, right? But I could be a brain in a vat. I mean, it could be that kind of a overzealous psychology graduate student removed my brain when I was in graduate school down at the University of Iowa and put it in a vat somewhere, and has hooked up a rather elaborate computer program going into an interface machine, which then sends the electrical impulses into various regions of my brain so that I have the experience that I have. And that this is all being done in accordance with the computer program, right? Now, how do I know that I'm not a brain in a vat? I mean, it's logically possible that I'm a brain in a vat, so how do I know that I'm not one? Well, Putnam has a very ingenious way to solve that in his book, Reason, Truth, and History, which I've always thought was very, very interesting, actually. We won't go there. We're just using this example, brain in a vat, to maybe make more plausible this idea that there maybe isn't an external world at all. What do I need an external world for? If I have the proper electrical impulses, the proper voltage and amperage moving into the proper regions of my brain hooked up nicely, what do I need an external world for? Maybe there is none. Now, what Descartes is doing here in this deep doubt, I mean, he's taking aim at the Aristotelians, right? The Aristotelians, of course, held that there is nothing in intellect that is not previously in the senses. Of course, Thomas Aquinas held to the so-called conversion of the phantasm, conversion to the phantasm, which is basically a way of stating that there is no thought without a phantasm. Aquinas would say, that we have to start with the phantasm, that is this realm of experience. And Descartes seems to reject all of this. In fact, he seems to suggest that our belief that all of our knowledge comes from the senses is really a result of childhood prejudice, right? We're pretty close to our bodies. We're all kind of intermingling here. And so we naturally kind of assume from childhood, and people talk as if I'm getting knowledge from the senses, but am I really getting it, right? Now, where we're going in this, and we're going to be moving now to a meditation 2 in the famous cogito ergo sum, but what Descartes is supposing here is, of course, that the senses cannot reveal the nature of substance. Let me say that again. the senses cannot reveal the nature of substance. Now, the nature of substance, of course, is a metaphysical question. What Descartes is saying is that the great metaphysical questions here are not amenable, right, to a sense perception. They're not adjudicable on the basis of sense perception. In fact, he claims that the human intellect can perceive the deepest nature of reality only through a pure intellectual action, an intellectual perception, if you will. To grasp metaphysical truth for Descartes, one must thus, as he says, withdraw the mind from the senses. One must withdraw the mind from the senses and turn to our innate ideas of mind, matter, and God, the three great substances for Descartes. Now, if you think about this, I mean, there's something quite religious about this. I mean, monks for generation were turning their minds away, if you will, from the transitory experience about them, monks and nuns, towards God as that eternal thing, that is the most true thing. And if you read, books, Thomas Kempis's Imitatio Christi, The Imitation of Christ, you'll see several quotations, you'll see much language about kind of withdrawing from the world around us and having this mystical connectedness to Christ and imitating Christ. Well, Descartes' withdrawing from the senses too, but he's doing it in a different way. And what way is he doing it? Well, let's go back to our worst case scenario. The worst case scenario is that there's an evil genius systematically deceiving me in all of my claims to truth. Is there anything that I know for sure, if it is the case that I am being systematically deceived by an evil genius? If I am doubting, is in a situation of radical doubt, is there anything that I know for sure on the basis of this radical doubt? And Descartes says, well, of course, right? The necessary condition for there to be doubt is for there to be a doubter. So if I'm doubting, I certainly am thinking, I think, right? And I cannot be thinking if I am not. I think, therefore, I am. Now, at this point, I like to point out that you're going to hear some very bad jokes. Joke is, well, Descartes comes in the bar and the guy says something about I think not, and he went away. No. Now, think about this. This is if P and Q, I think, therefore, I am. What follows from not P? Everybody out there has to say, nothing, right? You can't get not Q from not P. That's the fallacy of denying the antecedent. So whoever made up that joke obviously had not ever had a class in logic, because when I hear it, it's not funny at all because it's just an elementary mistake, an elementary fallacy. Anyway, he thinks, therefore he is, and what is his apprehension of being? He claims that in the cogito, he has a clear and distinct perception, if you will, of the I. I think, therefore I am. So I am clearly and distinctly perceived when I think about thinking. I cannot be wrong about this. This is the indubitum. I hope that's indubitum, I think so. So this clear and distinct apprehension of the I now becomes the mark of truth for Descartes. Descartes looks around and says, well, what kind of experience am I having when I'm experiencing the I as existing? It's a clear and distinct intellectual apprehension. Okay, so now the clarity and distinctiveness that he has here, he now uses as a mark of truth in order to evaluate other things. And we'll come right back to this. I'm Dr. Dennis Bielfeldt of the Christ School of Theology. You won't want to miss the next lecture, having to deal with Descartes' attitude towards the senses and many other things. I'll be right back. Thank you.